This is a thoughtful type. As I'm recording this, it's Thursday, the 4th of February, 2021. It's my first episode of this year. I am the polarizing individual, Mishak R. Brencher. It's been a while. Some personal stuff behind the scenes, but glad to be back. I'm looking to have lots of episodes this year based on very interesting things about anything really, any particular subject. Today, I'm talking about thoughts. The word thought itself comes from an Old English word called oat. I hope I've said that right. And it means to conceive of in the mind. Now, oat is spelt with a thorn letter. So it's thorn, O-H-T. Now, the thorn letter, it looks like a P and a B at the same time. So imagine a circle, and on the left side, it's got one tail going up and one tail going down. The thorn letter itself, it's Gothic, and it's an Old Norse letter. Now, Old Norse was the period leading into the modern Scandinavian languages, like we know of Denmark, Sweden, Norway, as well as Iceland. Interestingly, in his book, The Art of Thought, from 1926, Graham Wallace, influenced by the German theologist and physicist Hermann Helmholtz, broke down ideas with creative thinking into 4 stages. There's preparation, incubation, illumination, and verification. Preparation in terms of collecting, observing, listening, and analysing. Incubation as in thinking about parts and relationships. Reasoning with consciously and unconsciously. Illumination in terms of an idea of a solution that comes to mind and the tensions in place to create something. And verification is at the point that an idea is put into its form. Now I'm going to share some interesting things I've found out on the subject of thoughts you may or may not be aware of. In recent time, it's suggested that the average person has around 6,200 thoughts in a single day. This is according to psychologists at the Queen's University in Kingston, Canada. And they describe when a person's already got things on the mind, when a new thought comes into place, it creates a thought worm. And this comes from a new situation of events. Our environment has a really big impact as we functionally resonate with what we've just experienced, and then it adds on to the already ever-flowing chain of thoughts building up inside our minds. Every move we make, whatever we do momentarily, or things that have happened before we step foot into where we are positioned at that very point. We'll go through transitions anyway with our thoughts, but something very impactful or that relates well with us, it will stimulate, it will vitalize, it will influence all kinds of thought patterns to go in all different types of avenues, or something makes you think, yeah, I'm going to have that in my mind now. So it's interesting, the chain of thoughts that build up constantly, depending on how we feel, where we step foot, like each and every step of the way. It's fascinating. Memories are both short-term and long-term at the same time. And it's like two people having a conversation. So imagine short-term has a conversation with long-term, and it needs a certain amount of time for it to pass through the senses in order for it to completely settle without anything disrupting it or interfering. We naturally and unconsciously mimic the nonverbal behavior of those who we are around and interacting with. And this is to allow a greater connection and understanding with the individual or people who we are mirroring, and it creates a stronger connection for them with us too, being in that same environment or in that moment. It's known people can take on attributes or like personality traits subconsciously of their favorite fictional characters. So imagine a TV program you're really into, or those who are into reading books. Imagine it's something we're really obsessed with. So the story of the characters in this show or book, it can have an effect on our daily life. A captivating thing when you do watch a program or read a story, you replace yourself with the characters that you're watching because you become part of it. Interestingly, this can also serve to break down prejudices of other people who may be different to you. So imagine if a main character in a TV program you're really obsessed with or a book you really like. So this character is revealed to be from a different background to you, maybe a race, sexual orientation, like faith, beliefs, what you have. It could potentially influence you to have a positive outlook on people associated with that, with those classifications going forward. Differences makes it all encompassing. An octopus, unlike other invertebrates, basically an animal that doesn't have a backbone, like a slug or a worm. Basically, they have cognitive thinking abilities. They can form individual emotions and personalities, and even form friendships with humans. They have an incredible ability to adapt to special circumstances of captivity that helps them form relationships with their human keepers. Because of their complex nervous system, which is capable of learning and demonstrating memory, they've got the ability to recognize and differentiate between different human keepers if such situation was to take place, which I find really fascinating. Apparently, it's 9th in the list of the world's smartest creatures in the sea, as it can play, solve problems, navigate through mazes, and have respectable short-term memories. It's possible phobias can be memories passed through generations in DNA. So genes passed down from our ancestors can form switches to allow an offspring to inherit the experience of what their ancestors felt during their time. So imagine an event. It could have been a good or a bad event, but however it turned out, it can alter the brains and behavior of subsequent generations. So something our ancestors experienced a long time ago, it's had the ability to form the behaviors and alter the brains of our attitudes of the world. And something we've experienced in our life, people who are going to be here years from now, long after we're gone, their behavior and how their brains are going to form will have influence from what we've experienced. Even a nature neuroscience study found that mice that were trained to avoid a smell passed through their aversion to their grandchildren. So there was a strong emphasis on brain structure being changed. Hypnagogia is the state of being fully awake, but not being asleep. At the same time, it's the changing state of consciousness between wakefulness and being asleep. The opposite of hypnagogia is like a hallucination, which is dreamlike, and it occurs at the stage before one wakes up. Back to hypnagogia. It's possible to experience involuntary and imagined experiences. About 70% of people can experience like strange hallucinations, which are like forms of like sights, sounds, and even feelings of movement that haven't actually took place. And they can experience muscle jerks, sleep paralysis, and lucid dreams, really dreamlike, lifelike visualizations before that stage between being awake and going to sleep. So it's like what's here and now, it transfers from the real world to the dream world. Ever seen that game Tetris? Perhaps a lot of people have. Well, that stems from the idea of intrusive images and thoughts from hypnagogia. When things enter your head and you perform some repetitive cycle of activity, some repetitive cycle of thought. So that's where that video game gets its name from. Depending on how somebody makes eye contact can determine what focus they have on somebody or the situation that presents itself. From the 1872 book, The Expression of Emotions in Man and Animals by Charles Darwin, it suggests if somebody offers 60%, the situation appears to be going nowhere, because you can bet that person is really bored. However, an extra 20% taking it to the 80 mark, that person is showing real intent on getting to know somebody, and it can form a real strong sense of attraction. And beyond that, 100% of eye contact is generally not good news, because it's gone beyond all focus. It's only one thing, they're threatened by you. And a person can become completely fixated by the situation. And to finish off with, I've come across this very randomly. Apparently someone in the shower once thought of a reality TV show for people who believed the world was flat, and their quest was to find the edge of the world. How about that? I'm sure some flat earthers will be very offended by this, but hopefully it's light-hearted humour, but you never know. And that's a wrap. It's been a long while, but got through an episode finally. If you have listened, thank you very much for taking time out to listen. And I'll be back very soon with a similar episode of this format, where I again find out some very, very interesting things about any subject. Could be something I've thought of, or it could be something completely at random. But for now, take care. Have a good one.